Good evening, everyone. Welcome you all to the webinar on CNCF Brigade project. And today we have George, Cloud Developer Advocate for Cloud Native and Containers at Microsoft. He is here to share his knowledge with all of us. George, screen is yours. Uh, George, I think you are muted yet.
Yep, I'm back now. Thanks. Yeah, thanks everyone. Thanks for inviting again. I think I was here like almost 2 years ago, and I think talk about Windows containers. Now we're back to talk about open source. And if you don't know me, I come here to talk about Brigade. It's a CNCF, the Cloud Native Complete Foundation project. And since like July last year, I moved positions at Microsoft. I work for Microsoft as Cloud Developer Advocate, and I'm now I'm a cloud developer advocate on the cloud native space. I think last time I was just like a consultant on the Kubernetes space. I'm now working on this global team, helping customers and the community and the open source projects. And Brigade is one that I'm working very close. And we just released 2 or 3 months ago Brigade V2. There's a new version of Brigade, and if you saw Brigade project maybe 2 years ago or more, that was Brigade V1. That's a complete, rebuild version of Brigade. And if you are using Brigade V1, you can migrate to the new version as well. Can I start? Can I talk? Or you want to ask something before? Or just go for it?
I think we can start and they will
Okay.
ask some questions if they have in the comments. Let's see.
That's great. Okay, I don't have slides today because the idea is to show the things running. Okay, and I have my Visual Studio Code here. I'm on Windows, as you can see. I'm on Windows 11. It's a brand new machine, then hopefully everything works. But I just built this machine this morning, and that's like night here in Australia. And as you can see, I have VS Code. I have my Ubuntu using Windows Subsystem for Linux. Yeah, it's Linux on Windows. If you never use, you can just install. And one thing, I'm using Windows Home. It's not even a Windows Professional version. A Windows Home now can run all these things that you see here. If you got like a laptop with Windows Home, you can install all these things. And one thing different, I'm not using Docker Desktop. I have installed, but I'm using Rancher Desktop. And maybe can show something different here as well. But yeah, I also use Docker Desktop. But Rancher Desktop now is a very nice way to have a local Kubernetes cluster in your laptop for development. And as you can see, I'm using version 1.22, where I have Traffic and I have Containerd. I'm not even using Dockerd. I'm just using Containerd cluster. And the way that Rancher Desktop works is a K3S Kubernetes cluster. That's a lightweight distribution from CNCF as well. That was donated by the Rancher. Now Rancher was part of SUSE, and I even recorded a video with Nuno do Carmo, that's an advocate now, content creator from SUSE, and was published on the Azure tar. I can show you guys the link later. And we show how that Rancher Desktop works. Nuno went in details telling how that works. Well, I'm showing that because the project that we're going to talk today, that's Brigade, we have to install this in a Kubernetes cluster. That's the common way to deploy the project. Doesn't mean that I have to understand like Kubernetes development to use Brigade. That's exactly the opposite. And you're going to see how that. But I want to show the project running and how to install. But doesn't mean that the final user, the end user of Brigade, doesn't mean that they have understand Kubernetes or be a Kubernetes developer or anything. Okay. Then I have three main things here. I want to talk about the project itself. Then I go back here for the project. If you go on GitHub, that's the project. And if you open cncf.io and you go in projects, sandbox projects, you're going to find Brigade. I hope we find Brigade. Maybe. It's not sandbox. That's, oh, sorry. That's the graduate projects, sandboxed. Yep, it'll be here incubating projects. You can see CADA and I miss Brigade. Where's Brigade? Here, Brigade, there you go. And if you open Brigade, you can visit project website. There is a nice webinar done by Kent. That's the main maintainer of the project. You can watch this webinar, like 30, 40 minutes. I recommend you start using, watching this webinar. And also coming to the main project website. That's the one that we have open here. If you don't know CNCF, that's the main foundation where projects like Kubernetes are. Then you can see Kubernetes, Helm, Envoy, all the main projects, but there are also projects sandboxed and incubated here. And Brigade is one of them. I hope that makes sense. And all the ecosystem around Kubernetes, Brigade is one of those projects that's there for some time, but now have V2. And that's what I'm going to talk about V2. If you go on the documentation, and the first thing I want to show, and just click here, documentation, is to understand a little bit about the project. The way that I like is the design. And Brigade is nothing more than an event-driven script framework for Kubernetes, okay? That runs on Kubernetes, not for Kubernetes. Means that you don't have to understand to be an end user of this. But how that Brigade works. Brigade creates a connection between the Brigade itself on this blue box here and the external events. Okay, then imagine that you can have a gateway here. This will be, for example, I'm going to get cloud events. Any cloud events, for example, on Azure, all the Azure service, you can have cloud events. You can send cloud events. For example, imagine Azure API management. When I create like an API, I could trigger a cloud event and send for like an endpoint. And what Brigade does is they get those events that could be coming from different source, and they have what we call gateways, like have multiple layers of gateways. And we have one gateway, for example, for GitHub. We have one for Azure Container Registry. We have one for Slack. We have one for cron job, cron events. And he get those external events. They transform that what they call Brigade events, like a native Brigade event, with all the information that come with the event. Let's say someone create like an API inside one product, send that cloud event. And what Brigade does is you're going to use that event to trigger a script to run. Okay. And the way that the end users of Brigade they use the product is they subscribe for those events. And then comes something called project, where you create like a project configuration, what you call worker configuration. That's nothing more than like a JavaScript a script using JavaScript. They decide to use JavaScript or TypeScript, where you can define what you're going to do with that event. You're going to process that event using that script, and that script is using JavaScript or TypeScript. And when the end user come to Brigade, they could be logging using like GitHub authentication or any OpenID authenticator, like integration, or any authentication that you want integrate with Brigade. For example, GitHub. There is a video on the Brigade YouTube channel explaining how to configure GitHub as your authentication for your users. And imagine that I want to subscribe for like a project that's going to process events coming from a specific product on Azure or another cloud, or coming from another project. Any event, external event that's coming to Brigade, I could be subscribing and running a script. Then the scripts are not ready. You have to write those scripts. But that's what I say, that Brigade is like a framework. Okay, it's a framework for you to process asynchronous events. And based on those ingestion coming from gateways, that you manage those gateways. And you're going to see how that works. And pretty much that's how Brigade works. And where Kubernetes come in place. Everything runs inside Kubernetes, and any execution of this worker configuration, that's your script, runs inside Kubernetes as a container, as a pod. Means that you can have complex execution of those scripts, even using more than one pod, and you can pass information from one pod to another, like a workflow. You can also do very complex script executions using Brigade. Then basically that's how Brigade works. And they use like an event bus. You can see when you install these in a Kubernetes cluster, how that works. And if you want to see, it's an open source project, you can see Brigade here. Brigade core, that's all the sub-projects of Brigade are, including the gateways that I was talking about. If you search for gateways, you can see Azure Container Registry, GitHub, Docker Hub, Cloud Events, Bitbucket, and so on. There's more coming. And you can write your event. For example, I wrote myself, and I donated here for the project. I event called a gateway, or like an event source called Chrome Event Source. And as you can see here, it's nothing more than I have to install this as a installation inside my cluster as well, like an API that's going to get those events. In this case, for the event source, they just generate events based on time. Let's say every 5 minutes, I want to create an event that's going to trigger like a project. Like in this case, it's going to trigger a specific project ID. And the project is defined by, you can see that's my Brigade project. And you're going to see how we define those Brigade projects. That's not a Kubernetes YAML file, by the way. Looks like a Kubernetes YAML file, but it's not. Brigade is not using any CRDs. That's why Kubernetes just like where we install the product, but there is no dependency. You don't have to understand CRDs. You don't have to understand anything to use Brigade. And how that works? The first thing you have to install the product. But let me go for let's see if I have here the quick start. First thing I recommend you, if you want to start working with Brigade, you have to install the product to understand how that works. It's very quick now to install if you have a Kubernetes cluster running. In my case, I have one here. I have Rancher Desktop. And as you can see, if I go here on my and kubectl get nodes. So if that's, yep, I have one node that's Rancher Desktop, that's K3S. And if I get everything that's running, you can see there's nothing, it's just like a brand new cluster. There's a traffic ingress controller running here. If I go back to my browser, you're going to see that the cluster running, traffic, there is nothing, just go for normal Kubernetes cluster installed and running here. What I have to do, I have some dependencies. You need Helm, we need kubectl, and you can see the prerequisites. In my case, because I install Rancher Desktop, they also install kubectl and Helm for us. Then I don't have to do anything. Okay, I already have these installed by Rancher Desktop. And now I can install Brigade. Because we're using some experimental Helm features, you have to just make sure that you're going to set the Helm experimental, and then you can install using Helm. Brigade, they have a Helm chart. I'm not going to make any change. I'm going to install with the default values of the Helm chart. If you want to use the authentication like GitHub, you have to get the values files and change. There is a video on the Brigade YouTube channel explaining how to do that, like a 5-minute video. It's very easy to do it. But let's install. That's just my new. And as you can see here, if I open another one here, kubectl get home. You already can see the Brigade coming. Brigade namespace. Maybe. There you go. It's pretty much running. Let's go back for the other tab. Still running the Helm chart. There goes finished. Just a few seconds, you have Brigade installed. And I have all the pods running. Wonderful. Very quick now to install Brigade. And as you can see, install service bus, MongoDB. They're using Artemis for the message queue. There's a few components that you can see here. I recommend you to follow the quick start. And the quick start, what they do is they give you a port forward for the Brigade API. And Brigade API, as you can see, is running here already. Where is that? Here. Brigade API is that pod running here. And you're going to do a port forward for this service. I have access to the API server from my local machine. Let's go to this side there. If I use with Kubernetes, you know that you can forward your traffic from my Linux here to the pod running inside Kubernetes. In this case, is running here inside Rancher Desktop. And now I have access to that. And I go back, and I already have installed the Brigade CLI. If you don't have, you can install the Brigade CLI, Linux, Mac, or Windows. And only thing you need to export the password. In our case, because you're not using GitHub, I'm just going to get the root password to use on my local cluster, just for demo. In production, you're going to use GitHub, and you're going to authenticate using GitHub. In my case, I'm just exporting this for this environment variable because I need to use that to log in. And that's the login that we're going to use, and use the Brig. You can see the Brig is the CLI that I install briefly. There's a step here to install that CLI, like I was showing before. And after that, you can use Brig to log in. There you go, you are logging in. Let me show you what we have available on that CLI. As we discussed before, Brigade is nothing more than getting events and running scripts, asynchronous scripts, to process those events. And we have those projects where we subscribe to those events, and that's what you're going to show now. And on the command line, you can see exactly that. You can see login, you can see the version number and the events and the projects. As another thing, you can create like users, like a user account as well. If you're running background process jobs, like your gateways are using normally service accounts, like user accounts, to send events to Brigade. The gateways are not part of Brigade. The gateways are separate, repos and projects inside Brigade, and you can create your own gateway as well. There are SDKs ready for Brigade in I think having now in Go and JavaScript, and there is another one in Rust in development, and one I want to help. But at the moment, most of the gateways are written in Golang, but you could also use JavaScript because we have SDKs for JavaScript. And what the gateways do, they just call the API server using the SDK, and they send those events to Brigade. That's pretty much what they do. Just to make sure that everything is working after the login. Just one detail here. When I use login, I use insecure, just because I'm using self-signed certificates on the HTTP SSL connection here, and that's why it's insecure. In production, you have to create proper certificates to make sure that they'll be production ready, and we have documentation explaining how to do that as well. And we're preparing some videos, I think, to explain deeper how to do that. To be able to test now Brigade, we need to create what we call this project. Okay, I have just done some of those steps already and create this file. But how this can be done? There's a command on Brigade called Brigade init. If you do Brigade init, and I have done that already, let me just show you here. Brigade. Sorry, is not one. I think demo. This project called first project. This project was created nothing more than by a command called Brigade init. And if you go here, you're going to find that project being created. You call Brigade init, and you give a name for the project. And to show that how that works, let's just give another name. And yeah, they just create inside this folder. Should have to create the folder first. But let's go inside the one that I created before. What they create one file called .brigade. And .brigade, you have one file, one YAML file called project.yaml that I'm going to open on VS Code. And yeah, first project, Brigade, this project file here. How that works? It's a simple YAML file. It's not like a CRD where you define like ID for a unique ID for the project. I have a description here as well. And you subscribe to events. Because I don't have any gateway, haven't installed any gateway here yet, I'm going to use just like a native Brigade event. Okay, it means that if I execute something from the CLI, on the Brigade CLI, that's going to create an event. Okay, it's just a way for us to test Brigade. But in the real life, we're going to show you later that you can create events using the gateways from outside. I'll show how that works. And because I'm using the native Brigade from the SLI, events from the SLI, just to trigger our script, that's how I'm going to use brigade.sh SLI. That's the source of the event, and the type is execution. And if you go back to the browser, that's exactly how they're going to ask us to generate the event. They're going to create a Brigade event that's just like a testing, like a Brigade from an event created by the SLI for this project, first project. And that's how you create an event to test your scripts. Okay, and that's what I'm going to use here. And going back to the project, the only thing this script is going to do, you can see that I'm using TypeScript. And what many people ask is why these JavaScript codes here. There are two options when you create a project on Brigade. You can point this JavaScript or TypeScript to a GitHub, to a repository, like a Git repository. In our case, I'm just putting inside the YAML file, but you don't have to. Your YAML file could be very simple, just pointing to like a GitHub, a GitHub or Git repo, where you could just, using even GitOps to every time that you change your script, will be always executed from the version that's on your Git repo. In our case, is embedded inside the YAML file itself. And the only thing that's doing is just doing a hello world. That's the only thing that's doing. But the nice thing here, if you pay attention, is go a little bit bigger here. But because it's like a TypeScript, you can see that they're just importing like a library that was done by the Brigade project called Brigadier. And this library, they give you some features here. One of the features that events, and you can see that they process the SLI exec event, because it could be multiple events being sent to the script. And they say, I want to specifically, if I receive something from the exec, I want to run a job. It's like a pipeline. If you remember, like any pipeline is like a job. Think like similar a pipeline, but it's not a pipeline. And what they do is they create this event, and you select a container image. That Debian.latest is a container image. Could be any container image, Docker image that you have, with some dependencies that you have to run this thing. The command that's going to be executed, in this case, just like an echo hello world, but could be some application, something that you have developed that will be more advanced than, don't have to be in JavaScript, could be running inside the job, inside those containers. You don't have to write your things inside the JavaScript or TypeScript itself. It could be executing inside the container. That means that could be anything that you want. And this library, Brigadier, you're going to see the other examples that I have on GitHub. They are very fancy. You can even pass, run these in parallel, jobs in parallel. You can run like sequential jobs. You can pass information from one job to another. And that's the beauty of Brigade. You define the events and you say process, or you can say events process like sequentially or in parallel. You're going to see that in some other example. In this one, it's just like a hello world, okay? And there is an event for us to create the project. I think that's the first thing. Let's copy this one. I have done the Brigade init. As you see, I have everything created here. That's the project. I can just run the brig command to create the project. The project is created. And follow here, we can do a project, Brigade project list. The project is there, is created. How can we test that? We have to trigger event. And to trigger event, you're going to use this command, given the project ID. And there's an important flag here called follow. And this follow is going to allow us to wait for the script to be processed, and you get all the logs on our screen. That's very useful for development. And there you go. That's done, that's processed. Another thing you can do, and you can just remove, but one thing I like to show you is Brigade has something called Brigade term. Oh, sorry. Look how that is. It's a terminal for Brigade in command line where I can go for inside my projects. I can see all the events, that my project are receiving. I can see all the jobs that run there. I can go inside like a container that run that job. And I can, so there's option here, logs. And there you go, you have hello world. And that's how Brigade works. If I go back on my command line, quit this one, but if I trigger not one, okay, let me remove that. Trigger one event. I'm going to trigger multiple events. Then I'm going back to big term. And you're going to see all the events being processed. You can probably do F5. Yep, you can reload, refresh here with F5. And there you go. Everything was executed. And if you go one by one, everything was executed. Go just to prove that everything works. Yep, logs, hello one was executed. That's how Brigade works. And let me go back to and pretty much we went all the quick start already. And that's how Brigade works. One thing we can do also is, let me go for my gateways, is install gateways. Remember, let's go back here for the documentation, design. Just to review. We have events. In our case, we just use the CLI event. Those events came from the API server, became Brigade events, went to the event bus, and my project just subscribed to those events, and that script just run and process those events. How complex could be, Jorge, those events? If I go for the main project that's Brigade here on GitHub, you can go on the examples. And let's go for some of those examples. Let's say you can use even using Windows containers if you are using Windows. If you have Windows nodes in your cluster. But kitchen sink probably is a good one. And Brigade TypeScript. Let me get the font bigger here. You can see that we are, in this example, using the same Brigadier library. And that's like JavaScript, that's TypeScript. They're using unique name generator. They even create functions here. And look how complex that could be, the execution. The other things are just TypeScript. You can do whatever you want. And the nice thing is the user doesn't have to understand Kubernetes. If your sysadmin install Brigade like I did here in a production cluster, give access to the GitHub accounts of your developers, of your final users, could be a business person. The only thing they're going to do is create those scripts and create the projects to subscribe those events that are coming from somewhere. The gateways, yes, the sysadmin is going to install, like integration with GitHub, integration with Azure Container Registry, or Bitbucket, or any other integration. that you want, or even create like a gateway. But the end user, they don't have to do that. The only thing they have to do is like this. They know they have a library called Brigadier, where they can create events based on container image, and they call commands. In this case, I'm just calling echo, but could be any command that's inside your image there that could be executing whatever you want. For example, it could be, I don't know, send a message here to Slack or anything. But the nice thing of Brigade is those gateways, they are not just one way. In this diagram, it's showing that one way. But for example, the GitHub Gateway that was written by the team, by the Brigade team, they also can get information from the events that was processed and send back to GitHub. And that's been used by the GitHub, the Brigade project for a long time. And if you go exactly on the Brigade project, let's go back here, Brigade. Brigade itself, there is a .brigade folder. See, that's the main Brigade project. And they also use in Brigade, okay, to process, to do some automation on the Brigade project itself. And if you look at brigade.ts of Brigade itself, you're going to see how complex that could be. Anything that you want. It's a long JavaScript, in this case TypeScript, where they also receive information from the GitHub Gateway running on Brigade. Means that they send events from GitHub, they process some automation. Let's say every time that a new release is coming, there is some automation. There are cleanups happening every night using the Chrome Gateway. Means that every night there is something that runs using the Chrome Gateway on our Brigade for the Brigade project itself. It's a very good example for someone that want to use Brigade, is look how Brigade is using itself. And that's the file brigade.ts inside the Brigade project. And I'm not going details because that's more complex scenario, but I'm just going to show how many things you can do and showing that's not just one way, it's both way. You can write a gateway that is going to be looking the database because we have a MongoDB there, and getting all the logs or getting any information from the events, from the scripts that's being processed and sent back somewhere. Look, I'm developing at the moment something for the one gateway for Discord server and another gateway for Microsoft Teams. That's all my two goals to develop. If someone want to help, please join us on the Slack channel. There's a Slack channel for Brigade inside the Kubernetes, CNCF Kubernetes. It's kubernetes.slack.com. And then you have a Brigade project. I have all the discussions here. We have meetings every fortnightly. Let's say the meeting was yesterday on Zoom. That's not just Azure, that's any cloud, that's not just Microsoft, that's open source on CNCF. It's for anyone, for any cloud, participate and help the project here. We even, there are some people on the Google Summer Code that's going to do some things for Brigade as well. If there's anyone that's going to participate. I know this meetup is a Google meetup as well. And if there is one on the Google Summer, yeah, we have people going to develop things for Brigade there. How we have time? How long we have? Maybe still have time? Can you go a little bit deeper? If anyone have questions, I'm happy to answer. Let me see here. I can see some questions here on.
Yeah, George. We have some questions in the comment section. I will show it to you.
Okay, let me have a look.
Yeah. First one from the Camila Di Silva.
Is
It's
WSL2 available on all desktop SKUs? Yes, it is. I'm using Windows Home here and it's working. We have some videos on the Azure tab. And by the way, if you don't know what Azure tab is, it's not just for Azure. We do a lot of things on Linux and open source. But there's a blog that's called azure.com, azuretab.com. You can see all the YouTube, GitHub, and Twitter accounts. If you go on the welcome page, you can find all the links here for Discord server, LinkedIn. But the main one is our YouTube channel. And yeah, there are videos here explaining even Windows Home on WSL as well. And Fernando, that's answering here, I think. Fernando Holdick is one of the guys that recorded those videos about WSL and explaining that. Yeah, since version 2004 is a long time already. And it's not. It was I said I'm not going to upgrade to Windows Professional until I see everything that works on Windows Home, because I haven't. That's my personal laptop, and to be honest, everything's working so far with Windows Home. When you install Docker Desktop, Docker Desktop enables all these, WSL for you. You don't even have to know. But if I go on Windows features, that's the best way to see how Windows features. Let me see. Yep. There is one thing called Vitro Machine Platform. Vitro Machine Platform, that's exactly the platform that enables some virtualization. It's not the full Hyper-V, but enables enough for Windows Subsystem for Linux. Let's tick the box here. That works. And there you go. And even Windows Hypervisor platform, if you tick this one, I think you can even use VMware now. VMware works as well on Windows Home. There you go. And we explained that on the videos, but now I just prove here on my machine, everything's working with Rancher Desktop. But yeah, please follow Isaac. Click there, subscribe the button, subscribe button and follow this. We have numbers are growing fast because they have more than 100 videos now. We have 103 videos in 2 years, in less than 2 years. Thanks for the community. And there are videos for Brigade as well, by the way. There are Brigade Introduction and there are Brigade Gateway Deep Dive. Those are the two videos that I record with Kent. And there are the videos from the Brigade YouTube channel. Let's see, Brigade CNCF. I think that's the best way for you to find. And you're going to find the Brigade project here as well. There are a few videos, even videos from the meetings that we do every fortnightly. And there are Brigade 5-minute series. If you go on the playlist, that 5 minutes is growing. There are 2 videos already. And it's a very nice way if you like those 5 minutes videos to learn something new. There are one explaining how to install, another one explaining GitHub authentication. But yeah, we have also the webinar available here. There is one, if you want to become a contributor for the project, if you want to write code, that's the video for you to get started. Even if you don't know Git, you're not you learn development now, we're starting. There's a Git Basics for Brigade as well, explaining how to get started with Git for Brigade. And thanks for Kent to doing that, because that explains exactly how to get started and help the project. I recommend to watching this one, and I recommend to go on the Brigade core itself and look for the sub-projects. There's a few projects that you can help, and one of the ones that I like is this one here. That's a dashboard. If you're a front-end developer, and you want to help with the front end as well, you don't know Go, but you know front end, that's one project we can help. If you are a Go developer, please come and help us. And there are so many sub projects here that you can help. The gateways, the Brigade itself. We have some. Let me open this one. I can show you the sub projects here on the comments. See the gateways, the cron event source, the noise neighbor as well. If you like for testing noise neighbors, they do a lot of simulations of noise neighbors for the project for testing. We have the metrics, and we have the SDKs, Go and JavaScript. I started doing one .NET one, but to be honest, it's on my GitHub, but I need help. And there is one in Rust halfway done. If there's any Rust developer want to finish the SDK for Rust, come and help us, because those SDKs are very important. Those are the SDKs that we use to create new gateways, to do any integration with Brigade, pretty much coming from there. But let's see more questions here. Is Brigade similar to Kafka? Or... I don't think so, because Brigade is like, it's more like a framework. You can build anything from there. Some people compare with Argo CD, but let's say Brigade is more based on events. Like Kafka is more like to process events. Like we're using like a service bus, we're using a message queue inside Brigade, but we're creating like a framework around that. And if you look on the webinar video at the end, you can see that he's explaining the architecture of the product. And basically, you have the CLI, you have the gateways, everything goes for the database through the API, is a MongoDB. We have a FluentD that's getting all the logs from the jobs and put it back inside the MongoDB. Okay, and there's a scheduler to get the events and associate with the project and schedule the jobs. That's the Brigade scheduler. And pretty much why you have to send those things inside MongoDB, because now you can have gateways that will be using the API server to look for those events and send to someone else. Understand? Then Brigade, there are two places where there are logic is inside the gateways. That's flexible. You can create new gateways, whatever you want. For example, the cloud event gateways, you can integrate with any cloud, because I think all the clouds now are using cloud events. Like Azure, you can connect and send cloud events from pretty much most of the Azure servers, and it'll be just like a webhook sending to the API server those events. And Brigade could be doing anything that you want with those events. And if you want to automate, you want to do anything, I think Brigade is probably the more flexible for that. And if you look just how you're doing with GitHub automation for Brigade itself, you're probably going to understand how flexible is Brigade. And I'm trying to create more demos and examples, more, let's say, deeper examples for people to understand more how to use that in production. And I'm trying to get people from the version 1, because there are a lot of people, customers companies using for more than a year or 2 years Brigade. I'm trying. I need help. If there is anyone watching this that is a Brigade, user, is using Brigade for some time, let me know, because I want to create these examples for Brigade V2 and show how to use the product. But keep in mind that you can go for the Brigade examples for the Brigade itself that we use with GitHub to understand more. And look, the Brigadier library is flexible like that. You can do sequence jobs. You can do some things in concurrence as well. and you can create as many jobs as you want. There are ways to get information from one job to another as well, and you can use JavaScript, TypeScript the way that you want to run those things. And each one of the jobs is one pod that runs, and you define how they're going to run using this job.concurrency or sequence and say .run at the end. And then say event processor to process everything. But that's how to define how the jobs are going to be processed, the sequence of the execution here. And it's whatever you want. It's a framework to build the automation that you need and that you want, pretty much here. The dashboard is going to do similar to what the Brig term is doing here, in a browser way, probably more flexible. The Brigade Dashboard is very basic at the moment, but runs on the browser, and you can see similar things that you can see here, the projects, the events, the logs on the browser using these. You have only to install Brigade Dashboard in your cluster, pretty much. See if I have more questions here.
I think that's all for now.
Yep.
If there is any question, you can ask. And let's move to the Swags giving section. Now it's time to ask some questions to give Swags from our sponsor, WSO2. And George, can you ask about 2 questions from our audience to give Swags?
So, Sergey, can I ask?
Some about 2 questions from the audience. We can choose winners from the audience.
From the questions, who asked questions? Okay.
No. We can.
Okay.
You have to ask 2 questions, and
I have to ask.
audience will answer, and we will choose the winner from the comment section.
Okay, from the presentation then.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's get a simple one. What's a Brigade Gateway? Is the first question. What's a Brigade Gateway?
You can put the answers in the comment section. Yeah,
They can write down. If you write down the answer there. Easy one. What language you can use to write a Brigade script? 2 languages that you can use to create Brigade scripts. What languages are? And the first one is, what's a Brigade Gateway? Yeah, you have one, JavaScript. And what's the other one? JavaScript. Yep, that's correct. I accept that as correct. You can use TypeScript as well. There you go. I have one winner. The gateway, nobody answered that. And
there's another answer.
No Jazz is JavaScript and TypeScript. He put the correct answer, the full answer here. Yeah, he's the winner.
Yeah. We can choose the Pawan as the winner for the second question, right?
The first question was the what's a Brigade Gateway?
Yeah.
And I can ask another one if nobody knows this one is how do you install Brigade on Kubernetes? What are you using to install Brigade? It's a package manager that install for you to install Brigade on Kubernetes. What's that? Any Kubernetes user there should know that. Helm, yeah, there you go. He got it. Yes, Helm.
Yeah.
It is Helm. Correct. See, quick start. Helm to install. There you go, Helm.
Yeah.
Helm install.
Yes. Can you repeat the first question? I think there is no answers
The
for the
first
first
one is
question.
about the gateway. What's like a gateway here on the Brigade? Is on the screen. What the gateway does. What's coming through the gateway is a very straight answer. What the gateway receives and sends to Brigade. What's the main source for Brigade? Is on the screen. It's pretty much what the Brigade is. Is nobody's one. Is an event. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Gateway receive events. Yeah, that's correct. And Brigade process those events. Yeah, if you want to remember something on Brigade is get events and the projects run those scripts that you configure here that you subscribe. And that's by the way, that's a main difference from Brigade V2 is that now we can subscribe and you can have multiple users subscribing or multiple projects subscribing for the events. Means that one event can trigger multiple scripts in different projects. And that's a nice thing. Like a single event coming from somewhere could be running multiple automations, and they have like a fair way to do those scheduling to not compete. And that's a nice thing for V2. All that authentication with OpenID like GitHub is all new. The gateway itself is new on V2. On V1, there is no gateways. And V2 is a complete new project, for Brigades. And that's why we are promoting, because it's a very nice. If you really understand Brigade, you're going to see how flexible and what it can do is like unlimited. You can do so many things. And that's why the next step for the project is to create more use case and show people how to use the project. That's my main goal. And if anyone want to help and to create those examples that I was showing here, was this, yep, Brigade.ts and Brigade. Sorry, let's go back here. Yep, all that examples. Go and have a look on those type of options that you can have. So you can have projects with dependencies, and if you want to create more examples here and do like a pull request as well, there's one I want to create, like send like a cloud event from a cloud and processing something here is a nice one. And an idea is welcome, to be honest. If you want to show more, even using like any Node.js, like package management, like npm or yarn, you can use different package managers as well. It's just like JavaScript, but very flexible with the JavaScript libraries that you can bring, and all the processing, the events, and the jobs that we have on the Brigadier library. And look, if you want to also propose more things for that Brigadier library, if you are a JavaScript developer and want to increase improve this Brigadier, they probably be happy as well. You can bring new ideas to make the life of the developers, of the script creators easier. And I think the main thing for us here is look this as a CNCF project, and okay, and keep in mind that you can help as well. You can be part of the project. You can create new things. You can propose. The Vitro is there. We're still working hard to improve, to have more gateways. And I really recommend to follow the Slack channel. And yeah, pretty much that's what I think. I could go deeper and show, the installing like event source, but it's very simple. It's like the same way that we install Helm chart. So here's a Helm chart to install. A gateway is just like a normal installation. And you get the various files of the Helm chart, and you do some configurations and you install the gateway. That's how that works. I create this one. If you don't know how it works, and just ping me, I can help you. And I'm going to do a 5 minutes video explaining this one specifically, the cron event source, and soon will be on YouTube as well. That's pretty much what I have for today. And to go in more details on Brigade is going to take time, and I don't think we have all this time today to go in details. I recommend to go for the videos here and for the videos on the Ajata and follow there, because that's where we're going to bring more details. And there are 4 or 5 videos already here showing a lot of things that you can go more in details explaining. Today was more like an introduction and understand all those components. And that's just running on Kubernetes, but for the end user, there is no dependence to understand Kubernetes itself. And that's a nice thing, because it can have people here helping on the Kubernetes side, on the implementation side, but also doing like examples, gateways. That's not like really Kubernetes. It's just like using like a Go SDK, using a JavaScript SDK to call Brigade. And I have 2 projects that we are working, and one is, like I said, Discord server. Another is Microsoft Teams integration to do something similar to Slack. And imagine that you could trigger an event from Slack, from a command on Discord or Slack. We have a gateway for Slack, but we don't have for Discord and Microsoft Teams yet. And we want to do something like that. Imagine trigger automation from Microsoft Teams or from Discord. And that's the goal for those gateways. And if anyone has an idea for a new gateway, open like I show, and let's work together to create this gateway. Where this event could be coming from, or a product that you want to integrate Brigade with. And keep in mind that if you send like a cloud event, there is a gateway for cloud event. And cloud event is like, could be anything. Just create a few libraries for all the language to create cloud events. And if your product or your application can send cloud events, Brigade can receive those events and do whatever you want with them. And even send information back. I don't think the cloud event is able to send anything back yet, but we could improve the cloud event to send information back for your application as well. Like we process something, at the end, we get some logs and you send back. We're doing that for GitHub, but we're not doing that for cloud events. And if anyone want to work on that, it's a nice one as well.
Yeah. Thank you, George.
Thank you. Time, everyone.
I think it's time to wrap up today's session. And one more thing to add before wrapping up the session, guys. And let me show you something. Um, okay. Uh, we are so excited to announce that we are going to host Kubernetes Community Days 2022 at Sri Lanka for the first time in the history. And I will put the links of the social medias of the KCDSL 2022. And stay tuned with those pages and get latest updates about KCDSL 2022. And thank you, George, for dedicating your time to share knowledge with all of us. And uh, and explaining how everyone can become a contributor for the open source projects. And I will put the links.
Yeah, appreciate the invite, and hope I come back again with something new in the future. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Yeah,
And
thank you. And thank you all for attending today's session. Let's meet next time. Stay safe.
see ya.